Hi folks, welcome to this tutorial. What we're looking at today is the blues scale, the minor blues scale across the entire fretboard. I'm going to give you all of the positions in box shapes that you can learn and get under your fingers. And then we're going to look at some ways that you can traverse the neck from this end to this end and vice versa, ascending and descending, cutting across some of these box patterns to get you out of a rut of either playing that typical kind of box shape either here or here, which is what we tend to learn as guitar players at the beginning. We've got this pentatonic box kind of shape here and then one at the octave too. But what about all the bits in between? And that's what this tutorial is focusing on. It's going to show you the boxes, it's going to show you how to put them all together. Then we're going to look at some uses for the blues scale, and then we're going to look at how to turn that minor blues scale actually into the major blues scale too. So without further ado then, let's have a look at box 1. So there we are, that was box 1, pattern 1 of the E minor blues scale. Now, I'm calling it minor because this is a position that we're looking at. We're going to look at major later, and I'm going to show you how to shift it around, but it's very similar, to those of you who know, to the minor pentatonic scale. So we've got pretty much the same framework here as E minor pentatonic, with an extra note added, the blue note, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Now, if you've never looked at the minor pentatonic scale or any of the pentatonic scales before, fear not, I've got you back. We've got a tutorial on this website which covers every box position for the minor and major pentatonic scale. So get that under your fingers. It's a very, very important and useful scale for you to get under your fingers. Now, those of you who are just starting out and just want to go straight into the blues scale, that's fine. You'll be able to do that, no problems. And those of you who've come from the pentatonic scale who want to add that extra note in, this tutorial will work for you too. So either way, it's good to have both under your fingers. If you're familiar with the pentatonic scale, it will be a little bit easier because you'll be used to some of the box shapes already, and you'll just realise and understand where to put that extra note. So what we've got out here is a 6-note scale. So we've got 0 to 3, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2. There's our first octave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the octave. Whereas our pentatonic scale was, and here's our minor blues. So we've got this flattened 5 or sharpened 4th, which gives it's called the blue note. That's the note that really gives it its tonality. Okay, so let me give you that first box shape. And then what we're doing after that really is looking at different ways to play the same scale, going up and ascending the scale position at a time to get us back up to the octave. So let's have a look specifically at box 1. We've got 0, 3. That's on the E string. And then we've got 0, 1, 2 on the A string, 0, 2 on the D string. That's our first octave. Okay, to carry on then, the next note after our octave is open G, 2, 3, and then open B. So we've got, and then to finish off we've got 3 on the B, and then the open E. And of course, because we played 0, 3 on this E string, we can play 0, 3 on this E string too, so we finish off there. Okay, let's have a look at box 2 then. So it sounds slightly different, doesn't it? And what we're looking at here, because we're starting on the next note of the scale, that we started on E before, didn't we? And then we went to this note, which was the G. Because we're moving up to the next box, we're going to start on that note and run through the same sequence of notes, but starting on that second one. And this is effectively what the modes are all about. Now, this lesson is a very practical lesson. We're certainly not going to talk about modes to any great depth in this lesson. I've got plenty of lessons on my YouTube channel, and we talk about it in the major scale tutorial too, on this website, if you wish to look at that. But for now, I'm just trying to give you an idea of why it sounds ever so slightly different as you move up these box shapes. It won't over the chords. When you start playing over chords and patterns, it won't sound different, but because we're starting on each note and running through it, what you're effectively hearing is a mode. So this is the second mode. It is nameless. People don't refer to modes when it comes to the blues scale. So here are the notes then. We've got 3, 5, 6 on the E string. Then we drop down to 2 and 5 on the A string. 2, 5 again on the D string. And then we play, so then we've got 2, 3, 4 on the G string. That's 2, 3, 4. And then we play 3, 5 on the B string. And then we can finish off on the G. Okay, so that's position 2. So that's pattern 3, or box 3, or shape 3 of the blues scale from E, and we're starting on the 5th fret on the E string, which is the 4th note of the scale that we're playing. So we've got 4, flat 5, 5. That's why we've got the little chromatic run there. That's where we are, you see. So it goes 5, 6, 7, 5, 7. There are our first few notes. 5, 6, 7, 5, 7. Then 5, 7, 8. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8. Then we drop down to 4, 7. And then we go 5, 8. And then finally 5. So that's 4 on the G string, 7. And then 5, 8 on the B string. And then 5. And that's shape 3. So let's have a look at shape 4. So that's shape 4. This is where we're looking at the 5th note of the scale. So we're starting on the B, the 7th fret on the E string. So that's our first note. So we go 7, 10, and then 7, 10 on the next string down on the A. So they're the first 2 notes, and the next 2 notes. And then when we get to the D string, that's where the little chromatic pattern is. And that's a really useful tip to start to remember where these little patterns are, because they are the ones that really give this scale its sound. So if you can remember where they sit in relation to the pattern you're playing, then you're going to really be able to nail this scale very easily. So here we go, we've got 7, 10, 7, 10, and then 7, 8, 9. Then 7, 9 on the G string. And here we do a funny little shape. We go 8, 10, 11, and then we land on the 7th fret of the B, of the E string, which is a B. So we get. Okay, so just to give you that again, we've got 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 8, 9, then we've got 7, 9, then we've got 8, 10, 11, and then 7. Okay, let's move on to the final box then. So there's our final box. It's quite a simple actual box to play at, really. We're going to start on the 10th fret, which is the D note on the E string, and it's just 2 notes there, so 10, 12. Then we play a pattern that looks like this. It's 10, 12, 13. So we go. Okay, that's where our blue note starts to come in, and then we drop down onto the D string to the 9th fret and play 2 notes, 9, 12. So we've got this so far. Then we play 9, 12 again on the G string, and then our little chromatic run on the B string starts 10, 11, 12. And you can see that and hear that repeating. Here's. Okay, so that's quite simple. So we've got 10, 11, 12, and then 10. And that is the entire shape and box shape of the blues scale, starting from box 1, which we played as an open position, right the way through to the final box before repeating that open position at the 12th fret, which I'll show you now. It's the same scale, the same shape that you played right down here, but instead of the nut doing the work for you, your first finger is going to play those notes, and that looks like this: 12, 15, and then 12, 13, 14. So 12, 15, 12, 13, 14, 12, 14 on the D string. That's our first octave. So 12, 15, 12, 13, 14, 12, 14. And then we go 12, 14, 15. Okay, and then it is simply 12 and 15 and 12 on the E string. Which is the same as playing . You can see I'm pretending to put my finger there as if I'm barring across them all. So the fingering you use is different. So there we are. That is the blues scale across the entire fretboard. That's E minor blues. If you wanted F minor, then you'd take that entire box pattern, which all link together to form this big box. You move that up by a semitone, up by a fret, you get F. If you move it up again by a semitone after that, you get F sharp, G, G sharp, A, and so on and so forth through the chromatic scale. If the chromatic scale and that sort of stuff means nothing to you, then go and check out a series of videos that are absolutely free on my YouTube channel that cover the chromatic scale, how to build chords, all of that stuff. It's totally free. Probably take about an hour of your time just to watch through those videos and keep rewatching them at your leisure until it kind of sinks in. And it will do, I promise you. It will sink in, and it is definitely worthwhile your time doing it. So for now though, that is the box patterns for the blues scale. You can move it around to suit the key that you're in, and the scale itself will work very happily, quite obviously, over a blues. So let's say a 12-bar blues in E, so you'd have the... that kind of stuff with the turnaround. you know, that kind of stuff. It's going to work perfectly. Every note, every box shape that you've just learned will work over each and every one of those chords quite happily. And the beauty of knowing some boxes is that you aren't stuck in one particular area of the fretboard. Once you've got those boxes under your fingers, you can then do some runs like this. And all those patterns are, all those little solo bits, all they are fragments of each of those boxes as I move either up, as I ascend, or as I descend. I'm descending through parts of those box shapes. And that's the same for any big run that you see. You're running through a bunch of scale positions, really. So let's have a look at some of the repeating patterns in that ascending run, which was this. Okay, so that's a really simple pattern. It's loads and loads of repeats, really. You don't have to play it like I did. You can see that's a bit of a killer stretch. You've got a tone between your first and second finger, and then you've got these 3 notes. So you're playing 4 notes per string there, which is 0, 3, 5, 6, 7. Now, you could phrase that differently. You could slide from 3. And play it that way, or you could slide on the last note, so you could play. So that's completely up to you how you want to phrase it. So just do what suits your fingers at the time. But the notes are 3, 5, 6, 7, then 5, 7 on the A, then 5, 7, 8, 9 on the D string, 7, 9 on the G string, and then we go 8, 10, 11, 12 on the B string, and then 10. So just like the scale patterns before, we're just playing those notes. And then I was just rolling on those last few notes. I just ended up on a bend there to E. So, you know, you can piece that together however you like, and you can see that pattern is just repeating. And it's the same on that descending run that I did. And they're just notes, little fragmented notes from the scale patterns that I'm moving through. I'm up at this end of the fretboard, and that's just a repeat of everything here. So if you took a snapshot and placed it over this area of the fretboard, the patterns would look the same. They just repeat again. So if you learn the first 12 frets, you've actually learned all 24 frets. That's the same for any scale and any bunch of chords as well. You only have to learn this part of the fretboard, and this is just a repeat. Okay, so let's look at some uses for this scale then. Obviously, I've said that you can play this over a 12-bar blues in E. So if you learn this scale, any of the patterns from it, and then go onto Google or onto YouTube and type in backing track E blues, you will go E 12-bar blues, then you're going to get a backing track, and you're going to be able to play any of these notes I've shown you, and it'll all work perfectly over it, promise. The other thing that you can do with this shape is it's absolutely fantastic for rock and blues, because it's one of those things that it's just the next step on of adding a note in, a little bit more flavour than just the straight minor pentatonic scale that a lot of rock players use. So some really great players add that little note in. So it's fantastic for rock. Rock and blues together, obviously you've got Joe Bonamassa, people like that. This is written all over their playing. And here's the really cool thing. If you recall, if you've had a look at the pentatonic stuff before, then you'll know there's a minor pentatonic and a major pentatonic. And the cool thing about it is that the difference between them is just where the chord sits in relation to the scale. So the scale patterns themselves are exactly the same. It's just that we're starting on a different note, or the underlying chord is different. It's the relative major as opposed to the relative minor to give you the major pentatonic, and it's the same for blues. So what you could do, if we played exactly the same notes and same patterns, but instead of it being on the E, we had the G chord. All of a sudden, all those same scale patterns that you don't have to learn a different scale, all of a sudden you've got the major blues, and that gives you a really great country and country rock tone. It puts you right into that category straight away. So what I would suggest is if you put in like a country blues in G into country blues in G major into YouTube, and then play these exact same patterns that I've just showed you, it will fit really nicely over the top of it. And it's basically all you're doing is, let's say someone plays an A major chord, or here, what you're going to be looking for is that root note on the top E string. So if we need A major, then we're going to go E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. There's our A. And that's where you start the second note of the first box of that blues scale that we learned. So box 1. If it was B major, we need to find B on the E string, which would be E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. And that's where we put our second finger for that first box of the blues scale. All of a sudden you sound like you're playing country, and that's what a lot of the country players use anyway, like a major pentatonic, and you're going to add in that little blue note as well. It's just going to really give it some lovely flavour, and there's a lot more to country play than that, but it's just a way of getting you into different styles of music and sitting quite nicely there. You don't, just because it says blues in its title, the blues scale has got so many different uses. It's unreal. It's a fantastic scale to have under your fingers. And if you're a shredder kind of character, you don't necessarily have to play this really slowly. You can do something like this. So there we are, that is the blues scale. We've got minor and major here. I would recommend, if you haven't already, go and check out my tutorial on the pentatonic scale. And once you've got those under your fingers, then move on to the major scale. And then you've got a really fantastic grounding in Western harmony and how that applies to the guitar. If you've got all of those scales under your fingers, then there's pretty much no styles of music that you'll find difficult or tricky. And certainly from an improvisational perspective, if you've got these scales under your fingers, it won't be long, if you're playing along to stuff and trying to find the right notes, it won't be long before you've really kind of nailed your improvisation skills as well. So I really hope you found it useful. If you've got any feedback in relation to it, if you've enjoyed it, please let me know. Share it with your friends, tell other people about it. If you've got any feedback on future lessons that you want to see on this channel and on this website, please let me know that too. We're very open to suggestions here, so get in touch, keep in touch, let us know how you're getting on, and we'd love to hear from you. So till next time, take care.